What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. We are quickly approaching the 2026 NFL Draft, and so what that means is Dynasty fantasy football managers are diving deeper into this year's draft class, trying to figure out who they're going to be using those 3rd and 4th round rookie picks on as we get to those rookie drafts later this spring. So today, what I'm going to be giving you guys is 5 sleepers you should be targeting with those late round picks, players that are currently being drafted or valued outside of the top 25 players in consensus rankings on Keep Trade Cut, Fantasy Pros, Fantasy Calc, all of those consensus websites. These players are outside of those top 25 players, and you should be able to use those late round picks on some of these guys in those rookie drafts. So without wasting any more time, let's hop right into today's video and let's start talking about these sleepers. All right, so the first player for me today is going to be at the running back position. It's Adam Randall, running back from Clemson. Right now, he is on average about the 30th player in most people's rankings. And with that current evaluation, he's going to be somewhere in that mid to late 3rd round pick area. He is currently my running back 9 in my rankings, and he's coming off of a 2025 season where he had 168 carries, 814 rushing yards, 10 rushing touchdowns, and 36 receptions with 254 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns on top of that. Now, Randall is a big downhill runner who has rare size and speed for the position, paired with a very physical play style, and he attacks the line with urgency. He runs behind his pads well, and he consistently finishes through contact, and he picked up a ton of extra yards in 2025 because of it. He's a converted wide receiver, so think along the lines of guys like Antonio Gibson, but because of that, he adds a ton of value as a receiver and is an actual check down option for offenses with real route running versatility, which is why he also became one of only 4 players in Clemson history to have at least 750 career rushing yards and 750 career receiving yards, joining a list of only Travis Etienne, CJ Spiller, and Travis Zachary. Now, as I mentioned, he's still new to the position, but we saw his patience and decisiveness as a rusher improve quickly in his first year at running back, but there are still some concerns about his small sample size and how raw he is in pass protection. Randall looks to be a high upside developmental running back with special teams upside as well, who can contribute early in short yardage and rotational roles, especially if he can find his way into a gap heavy run scheme. That said, in a weaker running back class with a lot of question marks outside of the top guy in Jeremiah Love, Adam Randall is one of the few late round gems that I'm going to be interested in, especially in those PPR fantasy formats. Moving on to my next sleeper, it's going to be Skyler Bell, wide receiver out of UConn, and his average overall rank is the 32nd player off the board, which makes him a mid to late 3rd round pick as well, but he's currently my wide receiver 12 in my rookie rankings. During the 2025 season, he had 101 receptions, 1,278 receiving yards, and 13 receiving touchdowns, and Bell's an explosive receiver who wins with burst, route quickness, and strong production after the catch. He does a great job at manipulating tempo within his routes, and he's consistently finding space on underneath routes, making him a reliable target in the intermediate receiving game. He's also dangerous in the open field, and he has the ability to turn these short completions into big chunk gains with his speed and balance. His versatility allows him to contribute both outside and in the slot, which could add value in a motion-heavy offense, and he also became UConn's first ever consensus first-team All-American and was named a Bolitnikoff Award finalist in 2025. The main concerns involving Bell are around his smaller frame, where we've seen him struggle at times against physical press coverage, and he is a player who has a history of drops earlier in his career when he played at Wisconsin. Regardless, Bell is a very intriguing option at the wide receiver position this year, and he does check a lot of the collegiate usage metrics that we do want to see out of a player, especially those 2025 metrics from UConn. And he is a player who I think could find himself into a complementary role in the right NFL offense, which could make him fantasy football relevant. Moving on to my next player, it's going to be Ted Hurst, wide receiver from Georgia State. He has an average overall rank as the 33rd overall player, which just like the other 2 guys does make him a mid to late 3rd round pick. Now, he's a little bit lower in my wide receiver rankings. He is my wide receiver 17, but I do think there's still plenty of things to like about his profile. He's coming off of a 2025 season that had 71 receptions, 1,004 receiving yards, and 6 total touchdowns. Hurst is a lanky vertical threat who wins with long speed, route fluidity, and ball tracking downfield. I think he accelerates quickly off the line of scrimmage, and it does threaten defenses deep, and he does a great job at adjusting to throws at all levels of the football field. He is especially strong versus zone coverage, where I think his awareness shows up often, as well as his ability to sink his hips cleanly, especially for a receiver of his size. We also saw him improve as a yak threat during his senior year, so he's already adding some of that into his game, which is good to see because you need to have some of that ability at the next level level if you're going to be a good fantasy option. His red zone ability and explosive testing numbers are what truly add to his overall upside, but there are some concerns that center around drops and some struggles against physical press coverage due to a leaner frame and limited release package. Also, the fact that he's probably going to offer very little for an NFL team as a downfield blocker. Overall, Hurst does project as a developmental Z option who does have some vertical and red zone upside with the potential to develop into a full-time option in an NFL offense, but what that means is early on in his career, he might be a little bit more boom bust for fantasy football, but if he does get that full-time role, he could be somebody we get excited about as a potential wide receiver 3, maybe a flex option for fantasy purposes. One more wide receiver sleeper, I think Bryce at North Dakota State is worth checking on. He has an average overall rank as the 38th overall player, which does make him about an early 4th round pick. Right now in my rankings, he's my wide receiver 13, so I am a little bit higher on him than consensus is, and he's coming off of a 2025 season where he had 51 receptions, 1,079 receiving yards, and 7 receiving touchdowns. He is a very physically gifted outside wide receiver prospect who brings size, length, and strong ball skills to the perimeter. He consistently tracks the ball well downfield, and he uses his long arms and body control to win at the catch point even in tight coverage. Lance is very athletic for his size, and he has enough speed to stress defenses vertically, and he shows a competitive edge with how he finishes plays and blocks in the run game. Not to mention, he also has a very impressive production profile, including a 17 touchdown season in 2024, but it does come with some question marks as well. Played at a small school, the level of competition wasn't very good, and because of that, he very rarely faced top-tier defensive backs. We've also seen him fall into body catching habits from time to time, and he was primarily used as an outside receiver, so he has a little bit of a limited route tree. That said, if this is a player who can adjust to the level of competition and falls with the right coaching staff that can help develop him into a better or a fuller route tree, this is a player who has the traits to carve out a real field stretching type of role at the next level and could become a player that is capable of delivering big spike weeks for us in fantasy football. Now, my last and final sleeper is going to be at the tight end position. I think Joly from NC State is definitely worth keeping an eye on. He has an average overall rank as the 40th player, which puts him somewhere in that early to mid 4th round pick territory. Now, currently in my rankings, he's my tight end 4 in the class, and he's coming off of a 2025 season here where he had 49 receptions, 489 receiving yards, and 7 touchdowns. But Joly's a smooth and very versatile receiving tight end who consistently wins with soft hands and body control, and he has real alignment flexibility. He tracks the ball well, finishing through contact, and consistently produces in contested catch situations, and he's a seam stretcher who can threaten defenses vertically and has shown development as a route runner with tempo and subtle movement. Joly can line up anywhere, whether it be in line, in the slot, or out wide. He's a true receiving threat that can give an NFL offense multiple ways to use him. His red zone production and pass protection also add to his overall value. Now, the concerns around Joly come from his size. He is a little bit smaller. He has a little bit of a smaller frame, which can lead to some inconsistency as a run blocker, and it has limited his play strength at some points. However, I really wouldn't let that scare me away from him because his receiving metrics check a lot of the boxes that we want to see from incoming tight end prospects, and it is the main reason why he was a first-team All-ACC member in 2025. As far as fantasy football concerned, Joly projects as a high upside move tight end that I do think has a lot of flexibility as a receiving option, who could become a very reliable receiving target in a pass-heavy offense for somebody that's looking to add a little bit more versatility to their receiving core. So there you guys have it. 5 players currently being valued outside of the top 25 in ECR, consensus rankings, whatever you want to look at them. At least today, these players are going to be gettable in those later rounds of your 2026 rookie drafts. So hopefully you guys have a couple of those so you can take some shots on these dart throws. I truly think these guys have a little bit of upside for fantasy football and are worth keeping an eye on, especially as we approach the NFL draft and see some of these landing spots. That said, if you found something today informative, entertaining, actionable, do me the favor, hit that like button. It is the best free way to show this channel some support. Also, make sure you guys are subscribed. We got content coming around year-round here. Never want to miss anything on this channel. So like I said, make sure you guys are subscribed. And last but not least, go join our free Discord. We do have a free Discord linked in the description, helping you guys with those fantasy football teams 24/7, 365. But with all that being said, I have nothing else for you guys today, so I will see you on our next episode. Until then, peace out.